Aloha! Welcome to the Live Ukulele podcast. My name is Brad Bordessa, and I am joined via Zoom today by my good friend Brian Higgins, aka Higgs. Higgs is an ukulele player / originally a rapper and percussionist who has been spending his time lately working on a couple of hip-hop projects and incorporating the ukulele into those different projects. And so I thought it would be interesting to catch up with him, see what he's been up to, maybe talk about his recording process and how he's arranging and incorporating the ukulele into his different tracks. So welcome, Ryan.
Hey, Brad. What's up? Good to be here.
Yeah, thanks for joining in. You're working on a new album of hip-hop stuff, but also incorporating your ukulele into that. Can you tell us a little bit about how that's going and what it is?
Yeah. So, I've been working on this thing for a while now. It's kind of the project that never ends. My goal is to produce an album with 10 tracks. A couple of them are going to be sort of interludes. Yeah, a lot of rap, a lot of kind of low-key hip-hop, which is my sort of vibe, acoustic-based hip-hop stuff. But the ukulele is my main axe, I guess, when I play live. So I try to, incorporate that as much as possible into my recordings to keep it more realistic. And I just love the sound of the ukulele. But it's been a fun, sometimes frustrating, but always learning experience recording.
So how are you finding the ukulele incorporates into hip-hop stuff? I imagine most people are kind of approach that with a question mark, wondering like, well, how does that work? How do you make it work?
I try to find unique sounds and like, I think a lot of people, when they think of ukulele, they think of just like your basic kind of strumming patterns of like, like either a one drop kind of reggae thing or like a, like your old school, like just a regular strum. And that can be cool, but I think for hip hop, it's cool to add it more as a nuance, like some of the upper register stuff, add little licks and just kind of stuff that adds flavor instead of necessarily being the main ingredient of the track. Because otherwise it can kind of get buried beneath the drums and the bass and the vocals and all that stuff. So just trying to carve out space for it.
So you're arranging your tracks so that you're building on top of existing parts with the ukulele. So you already have drums and bass and that kind of a thing?
Yeah, for the most part. A few songs I've tried to start with the uk and build around it, kind of have it as the central focus. But just sonically, it's been a interesting challenge trying to figure out like, where does this ukulele fit like in the sonic space of a recording with when you have all these different frequencies, the low end, the mid, and the high end, and all this stuff. And I play a low G tenor, which can sound great, but recording it is interesting in that there's a lot of that kind of mid-rangey mud. So just trying to figure out, first of all, how to get a great recording of it. I think that's the most important thing. But then also sometimes you got to do a little EQing and scoop out some of that gravel.
So how are you normally finding your parts? Like, what is your approach to, oh, this song needs this little fairy dusting, or it needs more of a chord jank, or do you have any kind of a set method where you work through possibilities?
I look into the Oracle, and then it tells me, this is what you would play. And I say, thank you, Oracle. No, it's a lot of like, I get little melodies in my head a lot of times, or I'll have a song that's already written, and I'll be like, what can like, add more to this song? And a lot of times I have a melody in mind, And so I'll be like, hey, maybe this will sound good on the ukulele, and I'll try it, at different octaves, or I'll try a harmony of it or whatever. So a lot of it is just like fiddling around, trying to figure out like what sounds the best. And but yeah, I think for the most part, it's just like I have these ideas, and then it's just refining them down from my brain and getting them out into the recording sphere.
And so how are you doing that? What is your approach to recording if somebody maybe isn't familiar with that process or the gear that you need or the programs that you use?
Let me just preface this by saying that I'm an artist, a singer-songwriter, first and foremost, and rapper. And recording is not really something that I'm naturally gifted at. And so if I can learn how to do this stuff, I feel like pretty much anyone can. As Brad knows, I asked him and some of my other friends for help all the time. So that being said, I've kind of stuck with this program called Reaper, recommended by my buddy Alan, who's a engineering friend of mine, just all around musician guru guy. But so Reaper is a great program. And I was on Windows for a long time, and then I just recently switched over to Mac. And then I use an interface, which is just like a preamp for going from the mic. It's like the middleman between the mic and the computer. I was using a Scarlett 2i2 for a long time, and I just recently upgraded that also to a AudioFuse 8 Pre. So I've got some more channels to work with, and it's just a little bit more quality sound. And then for my mic, I got a Rode. This one's a NT1A. It's actually the one I'm talking on right now. And then I also use some SM57s, which are like standard. Everybody and their dog has recorded with those guys.
Especially the dog.
Especially the dog, yeah. A lot of barking and growling. My preamp that I have now has what's called a pad, so it'll actually increase the gain, because those tend to be kind of on the quiet side. So it's basically like a cloud lifter. It gives it a couple more dBs of recording gain.
So recording gain is basically the input volume of whatever your signal is going into the computer. And a lot of times on the lower end preamps, like what I'm running here, I have, again, the Scarlett. It's the 2i4, but basically the same product line. They don't always have enough gain to really get your signal, give it the legs that it really deserves. And the cloud lifter we're talking about is a little box that converts phantom power, which is basically voltage to run a mic, and it converts that into more gain for a dynamic mic like what I'm using, which is the SM7B, and it tends to be a quiet mic. So by having that little bit of extra gain, that input volume, I can get a stronger signal into my computer, and I don't have to, on the other side, push my computer quite as hard and jack the volume up inside my recording program. The input gain can be at a more appropriate level before we even get started. So are you using the Rode for your ukulele or the SM7?
I've tried a bunch of different things for my ukulele. Lately, the 57s have done the trick. They're kind of just like, it is what it is. Like you get it's just a straightforward sound. There's not a lot of...
Don't be saying that, Ryan.
It's not a lot of sweetening going on there. But I kind of prefer... I think sometimes condensers can add a little more high-end sparkle than what I want for my particular ukulele. I think, all instruments are a little different. And sometimes if I'm doing a lot of strumming stuff, I'll definitely use this guy. And I think condensers can have a really nice, shimmery kind of sound. But I've found that for a lot of stuff, just pointing a a dynamic or like a 57 kind of thing at the ukulele. I can get what I'm going for.
Nice. Well, that's something else we could discuss is the difference between a dynamic mic and a condenser mic. And a dynamic mic is, I guess it's more of like the old school passive design where you're not running voltage to the microphone, and it has a dynamic diaphragm. We should have Alan on here as well to tell us about these nerdy things.
Right.
But basically a dynamic mic is a little bit quieter, and it has something called the proximity effect, where if you're further away from the mic, there is less bass. But if you get close up on the mic, you start pulling more and more bass frequency into the sound. Whereas a condenser mic doesn't have that proximity effect. It's powered. A lot of times they have a little bit bigger capsule, I believe. Probably shouldn't even be talking about this because I don't know what I'm talking about. But the condenser mic, they're a little bit more flat, maybe a little. They represent, especially the high spectrum, a little bit clearer, perhaps. Whereas a dynamic mic can be a little more muddy. Yeah, but they both have their appropriate places.
I think
in your recording.
Dynamics tend to be take a little bit more volume and punch too. Condensers tend to be a little more delicate and sensitive to sounds.
For sure. I feel like if I was to recommend somebody just getting started recording, I would probably recommend some sort of a condenser mic, just because they're a little bit more straightforward to use. You don't have to worry about having a preamp that can drive them quite as much. And even just a USB plug-in kind of a mic can be really, really great. I think like the Bluebird Snowball or something is a popular one, and I've heard it. It sounds fabulous for most things you might want to do.
I actually used that exact mic for like the first 2 years of my recording experience. I used to write these raps on this site called Fiverr, and that's what I used to record. I used a Blue Snowball and I used Audacity. It was like the cheapest setup you could possibly have, and it did the trick, you know?
Yeah, it's amazing what you can get away with this day and age. There's really affordable gear that you can purchase. Whereas in the old days, you had to like go to a dedicated studio and buy studio time and really invest a lot of money in it. Whereas you could get out the door with an under $100 USB plug-in mic, assuming you have a computer, and off you go. You use Audacity or GarageBand, whatever free recording program you can get away with. So it's very accessible to anybody this day and age. So once you have your ukulele into your digital audio workstation, what do you do with it?
I spend hours and hours trying to figure out what I did wrong. No, I usually, once I get it recorded, then I'll listen back, and then I'll listen back within the context of the mix, assuming I'm not just doing a solo thing. And I'll set the levels, I'll adjust my little fader knob, make sure the volume's okay, and then I'll maybe add some effects, or actually I'll probably EQ it first. So I don't know how technical we want to get, but I'll probably just put on an EQ, just a stock EQ that my DAW has. I'm pretty sure most DAWs have EQs built into them that you can just add. And that's just either adding or subtracting frequencies that you find offensive, or I don't know if that's the right word, but you don't like it.
That's the word I would use.
Yeah, that's offensive. Get out of here, 200 hertz. I don't like you. So yeah, I'll scoop out some stuff usually, and then if there's anything that sounds really good, I might do a little additive EQ as well.
What do you find those frequencies are for the ukulele?
For my ukulele, I tend to find that between like 275 and like 400 hertz, somewhere in that range, usually tends to be kind of problematic, as far as there's a lot of that mid-rangey oomph, and that can it can come off in a mix as just woofy. So I tend to scoop some of that out, just maybe 3 or 4 dBs. Occasionally I'll add a little bit up in the high end, just to give a little sparkle. But it just depends on the song. I don't want it competing with, if I have a lot of other high stuff. I think a lot of mixing I'm finding is like kind of like a puzzle. It's like fitting all the parts together sonically and being like, all right, where is this going to fit in the spectrum? And sometimes it's like you listen to a like your ukulele track by itself and it sounds okay, and then you put it in the mix and it's like, what? So you gotta like, certain tracks I'll just completely wipe out anything below 250 hertz, and it'll just be pretty much all the higher mid and high stuff. So it depends on, mix to mix, but for the most part, my instrument, I usually take out a little mid-rangey, and sometimes I'll add some sparkle and maybe a little bit between like the higher mids, like some of the 750 to 1000. Sometimes I'll put a little bump right there.
Have you spent much time EQing a plugged-in sound? Do you ever record a DI along with your mic track?
Yes, I have.
And how do you find that differs between the EQ on the mic track and the EQ that you need to put on the pickup?
Well, it's easier to work with because you just get what you get. You don't have to worry about mic placement or anything like that. So in that sense, I like it, but at the same time, you're limited to what your pickup sounds like. And so I have what is it? LR Bags 5.0 in my Pono that I use. And it's a nice solid pickup, but it's still, you're going to get that sound like it's plugged in. So that's kind of hard to get rid of. And so I think definitely if you're going for like a high quality kind of natural, like the most natural sounding recording, then you're going to want to use a mic. But sometimes it can be nice to have a combination of both if you want to add a little bit of that plugged in kind of meat.
Nice. Well, and you mentioned the 5.0. This is kind of a whole different subject of like live performing is where it usually crops up, but even in recording it would affect the sound, is the difference between a passive and an active ukulele pickup. And the 5.0 is an active pickup. So, for instance, Ryan or myself, we could just plug it right into the computer and not have to worry about it. But if you have a passive pickup, a lot of times the frequencies will occur in a certain spot, and all you'll get is like high mids, and that's like almost your entire signal just because of the way the signals are mismatched. And if you use a preamp can balance that and will bring the passive pickup into a more active pickup like sound, so that you get the full frequency spectrum, and then you're working with, everything, a full tank of gas, basically, on that track. So that's something to keep in mind as well, is that if you have the quality active pickup, you're good to go. But if you have a passive, you have to have that extra step in line. Otherwise, you're going to be kind of fighting that a little bit more than you need to.
Right.
Yeah, those were the days when I had a passive pickup. Oh, boy. It's a struggle bus all day long.
Yeah. Could you also get away with just using a DI if you don't have a good preamp?
Yeah, usually a DI will do the impedance match for the most part. But that's not to say that passive pickups are bad. You can get fantastic sounds with them, but you kind of need to know what best to match it with. Otherwise, you'll have a hard time. But yeah, a DI is another good one to have in your gig bag.
Yep.
So on the album, how are you handling the other instruments? Are you recording them yourself? Are you programming, flying them in from other artists? What's the scoop?
I'm flying them in from Ecuador mostly, and some Beijing. No, yeah, I'm doing a kind of a mixed bag. A lot of stuff I've been doing in the box, they call it, where I just have MIDI plugins that emulate the sounds. So whether it's a piano or a drum kit, and then I just play them either on my keyboard or on this beat machine thing that I have called the Machine. It's literally called the Machine. MK2. But yeah, so I'll try to play it with as much feel as possible. Even when I'm using virtual instruments, I think it's important to get to be able to play it instead of just programming it, because that takes away some of the magic. I think a lot of that. And then I've had some fly-ins from different artist friends. Alan plays a really mean electric guitar, so he's been shooting me some stuff. And got another good friend, John, that's a violinist. He sent me some stuff, and some other vocalist friends. So yeah, it's a mix.
So these songs, are they all original?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I might have stole, half of them from Bob Dylan, but, shh.
That's everybody.
Right. Yeah, I mean, what is originality anymore? Anyways, everything's derivative. No, but yeah, my songs, I write such wordy songs for the most part that it'd be pretty hard to be like, hey, that sounds just like another song, because I think that's one good thing about rap, is that it's usually pretty original sounding.
Well, let's have a listen to one of your originals. I believe we have Livin' on the Rock. This sort of showcases Ryan's ability to combine the two worlds of maybe a typical ukulele song with a little bit of a reggae chank, along with some hip-hop verses which kind of tell the story and set the context of the tune. So this is called Livin' on the Rock.
Living on the rock, where I call my home. Island life I love and know. There's nowhere else I'd rather be than living on the rock, where the days are warm. Painted mountains, postcard shores. There's paradise around the clock when you're living on the rock. Yeah, I was homegrown on this tropical island, out in the Pacific where the sun is the brightest. Grew up in mango trees and living off of shaved ice and bentos. Sugar plantation rental, we had some humid nights and low-key days. No freeways, just aloha and Rosany repaved. Bumping over potholes on the way to a beach day. Radio station got that reggae on replay. And we're cheapskates, sipping aloha made. Spot the green flash, but I blink and it's gone away. On the road, see familiar faces with shaka, aunties and uncles and people I've known since younger days. Good time sneaking into the pool at the hotel when there's no swell and there's nothing to do. But I'm telling the truth, paradise is right here. Thank God I got to spend my life here. Living on the rock, where I call my home. Island life I love and know. There's nowhere else I'd rather be than living on the rock, where the days are warm. Painted mountains, postcard shores. It's paradise around the clock. Living on the rock. Said ever since I was a little boy, or you could find me chasing girls, picking lily koi, or sucking on a couple mango lihimoy. Love to go down to the Hilton and feed the koi. Remember walking through the cane fields, barefoot and sunburned, right off the coast with the trade winds blowing. Hiked down in the gulch with my best friends, trying to catch toads with our bare hands, chilling in our secret spot. The street's hot, feel the buzz of the mosquitoes. Gray clouds rolling in from Hilo. Pretty low key like bass lines. I just jump on my scooter, then strum my ukulele and watch my sister's hula. It's a mixed plate. We got Asians and Caucasians and Hawaiians and Hispanics. Doesn't matter what your race is, we just jam sesh, call it Kanikapila. To us, a big city means Kona or Hilo. Sun sets down over the lava fields, breathing the salty, sweet air, jumping, yeah, nice the water feels. And time is just a second-hand thought. Feel the breeze in my hair, not a care when you're living on the rock. Rock, where I call my home. Island life I love and know. There's nowhere else I'd rather be than living on the rock, where the nights are warm. Painted mountains, postcard shores. It's paradise around the clock. We're living on the rock.
Oh yeah. It's one of Ryan's original songs called Living on the Rock. It can be found on his EP, The Letdown, available on all of your favorite streaming or download sources. I actually played the ukulele solo on that track. So maybe it'd be interesting for people to hear about your lyrical process for writing songs, because I know you come up with all kinds of very clever lines that I hear and go, oh man, it's just like a total zinger that so classically Ryan, and it's so impressive when you do it, but I don't have any idea how I would ever come up with something that rhymed and was clever and had some funny reference to it. What is your process for coming up with that stuff?
Oh, thanks, man. Appreciate the props. I like the word zinger also. But yeah, this is I think this is something I'm most passionate about is lyrics. And my process, man, it really varies. But a lot of times I'll have an idea, basic idea of what I want for a song. An example would be like for Living on the Rock, I kind of knew what I wanted the song to be about when I first started writing it. I wanted just to explore, my version of growing up here and on Big Island and in Hawaii in general. And then after that, it was just filling it in with the specifics of, what I had to say. And I tend to be one of those people that I rewrite a lot. Some people are of the school of mind that are like, once you write a song, that's it. And it's good. And I'm honestly kind of jealous of those people because as soon as I write a song, I'm like already thinking of ways it could be better. So especially lyrically, I usually take my time and I'll have like probably 5 to sometimes even 10, 11 drafts and just kind of relentlessly go at it. But I have been finding that it's really important to, when you're first getting your idea down, like getting the inspiration and putting it onto a voice memo or a recording or writing it down, it's important to not have that critic on. Like just turn off that critic and just get the idea out. There's going to be a lot of garbage in there, a lot of crap. There's that one little nugget, and you're like, all right, this is all worth it. And then from there, you can kind of refine down. I know a lot of people have a hard time. They might ask me like, oh, how do you write a song? Like, how do you get a song down? And I think like it's really important to just, once you're inspired, first of all, like try to put yourself in position to be inspired, like listen to good songs and great writing and, find time to practice your craft. Just like playing ukulele, like if you don't do it all the time, then you're probably not going to progress. You're going to kind of get stuck at a certain level until you start really committing to it. And so songwriting as a craft is the same way. If you're just one of those people that waits for inspiration to find you, then unless you're one of those rare songwriting, virtuosos, then you're probably not going to ever put out a great body of work. But yeah, so my process is I write a lot of crap, and some of it turns out okay, and then I just refine from there.
So do you think you could like live on the spot walk through kind of like a fake drafting process of like if you have like a line or a rhymed verse or something, like how you would take something, just if you just make something up right now and then improve upon it? Is that something you could kind of demo just so people could get in your head and kind of see how you work through the process?
Oh, you don't want to be in my head. Trust me. It's a bad place. No. Yeah, we could try something like that. So let's see. Well, first of all, I would probably start with like, what is something that I want to rap, or not rap, but just talk about. So could be start off really broad, like love. Okay. From there, where do I go? Like, what about love do I want to say? Like, is it good love? Is it like just got in a relationship and I'm stoked? Or is it like I just got out of a relationship and I'm heartbroken? Or is it like angsty? And this is the one that I tend to go with because me and relationships don't tend to gel too well these days. But yeah, just so kind of feeling like, oh man, I really like this girl, but the feelings may not be mutual, and it's like you're kind of in this weird angsty spot. So maybe I would pick that. So then I would be like, okay, what would be a good vehicle or like turn of phrase to express that? So I would probably write down a bunch of stuff, maybe like this is just like an angsty kind of person, in this case me, saying you're my if only. So that would be kind of the tag maybe. And so I might start off with saying where I was, like being descriptive. I think the verses a lot of times are nice to have a lot of description going on. So I might say 1 a.m. collecting thoughts by the window, or something nice and poetic, dramatic, wishing someone would hold me, finding out that love is not that simple. I guess you're my if only. So, something like that. I would probably take that simple thing and then I would expand on it and keep writing more verses.
So, maybe this won't be your best work, but what would your second draft of that verse look like?
Okay, so what I had in the beginning was 1 a.m. staring out my window, wishing someone would hold me, or wishing she would hold me. This is about one person. Finding out love ain't so simple. She's my if only. So what I might do from there is, I feel like I would look for any words that are out of place, first of all, or if it's too long or too short of a line, I would cut or add. And then from there, I might just see what's cheesy and take that out. So like the first line I think is all right for now. 1 a.m. staring out the window, wishing I had someone to hold, or wishing she was here to hold me. That just added wishing she was here to hold me. So I like little things like alliteration, here to hold. I would just kind of, that's always in the back of my mind of like, what can add to this line and make it more interesting? So wishing she was here to hold me. And then I might say, I think I originally had love ain't so simple, or love isn't so simple. But I might say more like, turns out love ain't so simple.
So a little more conversational.
Yeah, more conversational, more explanatory. Usually you want less. Less is more. Unless you're talking about rap, which is a little bit different in the process. That's more like, finding the right banger rhymes that go together and multisyllabic stuff and being clever. And it's a little bit different from what I'm doing right now, which is more of like a singer-songwriter song. So that's two different worlds. But yeah, so I got 1 a.m. staring out my window, wishing she was here to hold me. Turns out that love, it ain't so simple. I guess she's just my if only. Something like that. And then from there, I might find melodically how to fit that better. And once you start singing, you figure out like, oh, this line isn't working or it is working. And you just keep kind of going. You know, I'll probably if I look at this tomorrow, I'll probably find something, you know, that would be like, oh, that's better too. So I think that's why it takes me a long time to write songs, is that, and a lot of mixers talk about this too, where they like to come back with a fresh set of ears. I think as a songwriter, it's important to come back with a fresh set of eyes and just a sense of like stepping back of like, all right, how does this look?
And what is your process for fitting chords into the picture? Because I think a lot of times as an ukulele player, you're thinking in terms of chords and words, and people ask like, oh, what do you write first? What do you write first? Or how, depending on which one you write first, how do you fit the other in?
I usually come up with like what I just did. I'll come up with a melody, and then I will try to fit some chords under it. Sometimes the other way. Sometimes I'll find a chord progression I like and fit lyrics or melody over it. So I mean, there's no wrong way. I think that's one of the things I love about songwriting, is that there's so many ways to get there. Some people are more methodical about it. Like they take out their, you know, their word doc and they pull up their rhyming dictionary and they get all this stuff and they have a sort of parameters of like, okay, this verse is going to be 4 lines with the 2-line hook. And I tend to not do too much of that. I'm a creature of habit and routine, and so I like having somewhat of a structure for that kind of thing, but I think it's easy to get formulaic if you're doing this all the same thing. You know, it'd be like if you were constantly playing the same 4 chords on your ukulele. At some point, you're gonna want to switch it up. And you're gonna have to switch it up if you want to play with, you know, other people and things like that. So I think songwriting has a lot of similarities. And so I try to just kind of go with what I'm feeling on any given day. And then I'll just try to keep the muse going as long as possible. And sometimes you get to a certain point in a song and you realize that this probably is not a song for me personally. Like, I've written a few songs that are kind of in the country vein, and I am not a country singer at all, even though I may look like one. So, you know, those kind of songs you just put on the back burner. I've sent a few songs to other artists, just be like, hey, wouldn't fit me. Would you be able to do anything with it? But I think that's a big thing, is like finding your own voice as a songwriter and as an instrumentalist too, and, you know, figuring out what you're good at.
Great. Well, that's some good practical tips, I think, for folks. It's so hard to pin down exactly what songwriting is and how you can do it. There's not really any easy answer. It's one of those things you just work on and you figure out your own flow. But yep. I think having that example that you just gave us will be interesting to folks, kind of seeing the process firsthand and how you approach it. But one thing that maybe we can wrap up with is that when I first met you, you had kind of just started playing ukulele. And, you know, it was kind of rough. But now, since I've known you, you've been just practicing, really working on your chops. And it's been so much fun to watch you improve as a player. And now you're at this point where you're confidently recording your own album. And, you know, every time I see you, you just sound better and better. What has been your kind of mindset for just that hard work you're putting into the practice?
I just go to sleep and then I wake up better. You know, I don't have to practice. And sorry for the rest of you. No, no, man. First of all, any compliments regarding the ukulele coming from you are like high praise, because you know, you were a big inspiration for me early on and still are. I think it's just, you know, having a regular, consistent work ethic. I remember when I first started playing, I didn't really I think I knew like one strum, and every time I tried to do anything besides a full chord strum, I would miss the strings like more than half the time. And so I think it's just practicing, you know, finding songs that I like, and then being like, all right, I'm going to learn this song on ukulele. Or if it's already a ukulele song, I'm going to learn this song. You know, listening to recordings from like Brittany Paiva and your stuff. And I remember I learned something that, oh man, what's his name? He's over at Hawaii Music Supply at the ukulele site.
Corey?
Yeah, Corey. He did a John Mayer cover on ukulele, like a fingerstyle thing, and I was like, I gotta learn that. So I spent, you know, a month or so just trying to get that down. And so it's really just like specific practicing, I think, is like really, really key, because it's practice is one thing, but it's easy to kind of like let the practice become distracting and just kind of do it to do it. But if you have a goal that you're working towards, I think that, and also playing out, like if you can play well while you're playing live or recording, even like under pressure, then you know you've got the part down. So I think that's a good barometer for kind of.
Well, and it also teaches you so much about what you're doing. It's kind of like you have built the boat out of the water, and then when you go on stage, you put the boat in the water and find all the leaks.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty much just keep sucking until you suck less. This was my
That's
my
a really
way to
good
do it.
positive spin. How has your style come to evolve along with that practice? Because, you know, every one of us has kind of our own musical fingerprint of just how we play. And you come from a drumming background before playing ukulele. So, you know, in that sense, you kind of have a weirdo approach, just like me and most other people around. It's like just their own kind of funny blend of spices.
Yes. Definitely. I think my right hand suffers from like restless hand syndrome. There's like that restless leg syndrome. I have restless hand syndrome. Just because I spent so long, you know, constantly being active with my hands, and as a drummer, you're always moving, and so once I started playing guitar and ukulele, it was like, whoa, like I have to be really still all of a sudden. And I wanted so badly to be like percussive with it and like, you know, act as the drummer and the melody and the chords, and like I wanted to do everything, but it turns out like you don't have to do everything, and sometimes it's the space, like leaving spaces up to the imagination can be just as effective as like trying to fill in all the gaps with sound. So that was a big learning process for me, and I'm still, you know, working on it. I still kind of get riled up when I'm in like a solo or like, you know, playing a really dynamic part. I'll start really grinding and trying to hit the strings as like a percussive thing. But I guess that's part of my style too. So
That's great. Well, thanks so much for spending the time with me, Ryan. This has been very interesting, and I'm sure folks will appreciate having your expertise up on the podcast.
Yeah, right on, man. This was awesome.
Yeah, so you can check out Ryan's music on iTunes or Spotify or Bandcamp. He probably likes the Bandcamp option best. More of the money goes in his pocket. What's the time frame on the new album coming out, and where will people be able to find out more about it? Do you have a newsletter list?
Oh God, I hate that question. The time frame. I mean, no. I'll be posting updates on both my website and my social media. Higgs Official is my Insta and Facebook handle. I will be releasing a single from the album in the next month, and then the rest of the album will be, fingers crossed, done and out by the end of the year. So that's what I'm looking at time-wise, and we'll see. But that's my little self deadline.
We'll hold you to it.
Okay.
No, Ryan, stop mixing. It's done.
Yeah.
So if you want to find out more about Ryan's music, you can check out his website, higgsmusic.com, or find him on Bandcamp or your favorite music supply outlet, aka digital download place. And keep an eye out for his new album, dropping maybe by the end of the year. But if anything, look for the new single. I've been hearing some sneak previews off the album, and it's all been great. And I'm excited to hear what else Ryan comes up with for it. So stay tuned. All right, thanks again, Ryan.
All right. See you, Brad. Aloha.
We're back here on the first and third Saturdays of the month. You can catch the Live Ukulele podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app. You can find the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or of course on liveukulele.com, along with the rest of my learning resources. We'll play you guys out with a bit from Ryan's single, No Plans.
Ooh, I got no
See you next
plans.
time. Aloha.
Coming down and I can't hold back. I'm in the moment, so chill that I'm like frozen. Ooh, I got no plans. Coming down and I can't hold back. Check a 1, 1, I'm in the moment, so chill that I'm like frozen. Yeah, I keep it cool like Frosty, chillin' cause that really is my favorite hobby. And I don't wanna be stressing when I step in, kinda blushing and swing a hook like Rocky. I keep it oddball slow-mo, capture each moment like a Kodak photo, a GoPro, so working on this flow though, find words that have a nice ring to them, Frodo. And life is chock full of things that'll get you down, leave you toppling like bowling pins. But all business, no play, make me get uptight. Rather be low-key like bass lines at open mics. And clock watching, getting into my head. Gotta step out of that worry mode and give it a rest. Yeah, I'm doing my best. See, I keep a creative spark. I'll be fusing it as I move to the beat of my maker's heart. Ooh, I got no plans. Coming down and I can't hold back. I'm in the moment, so chill that I'm like frozen. Ooh, I got no plans. Coming down and I can't hold back. I'm in the moment, so chill that I'm like frozen. Thought I was done with hip-hop, guess not. Staying on track until I misstep or slip off. I keep calm and call my mom when I'm a bit lost. Send up a little prayer when I'm about to flip my lid off. These days ain't no vacay like Griswold's. It's enough to make you wanna throw some disc off. We all could get a little ticked off. I find myself so focused on my future me that I forget to breathe. But if I could only stay where the moment's at, go for broke instead of only holding back. I'm looking for a new border like I'm in Mexico. Sometimes I just feel frozen, but I let it go. Welcome to my life. I ain't trying to blow smoke, but I guess it's high time that I put out what's in my mind's eye. Can't let regrets fill my chest, knock me over like blindsides. So chill that I'm like frozen. Ooh, I got no plans. Coming down and I can't hold back. I'm in the moment. So chill that I'm like frozen. Ooh, I got no plans. Coming down and I can't hold back. I'm in the moment. So chill that I'm like frozen.